Thank you, friends. Spread shalom. Greetings to you all. I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas holiday and were either with or found someone to love. When the truth is found to be lies and all the joys within you dies. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? Now, who wouldn't love someone to love? And someone to forgive, to change the patterns of your life. And we've now reached 2016. And I hope you have and or had a fantastic new year. We all know that great classic sung at this time of the year, Old Long Ago. For Old Lang Syne, my dear, for Old Lang Syne. We'll take a cup of kindness yet for Old Lang Syne. Now, sounds a little nicer than Old Long Ago, but who doesn't want a cup of kindness? And since you would all love one, please all give one to whoever you think needs one. Hey, give one to everybody you meet. You can never have enough kindness. And if you made a New Year's resolution or plan on making one, statistics show that only 7 to 8% are realized. However, I know with all of you, it will be a much higher percentage. Now, I want to jump right into this week's fantastic parsha. We've reached the beginning of the book of Exodus, and you will see very quickly you're not in Kansas anymore. Welcome to Shemot, the names. We call it Exodus, but its Hebrew name is the Book of Names. Now, names. What an interesting title and what an interesting concept. Names. Now, how many of you would love to have named yourselves? Would you have picked the name you were given? Hey, you were given a name before anybody knew who you would be. Have you ever thought about what does your name say about you? Now, while he was known as Rowdy Yates on Rawhide, the real breakout role for Clint Eastwood was 1964's Fistful of Dollars, the first of the three great spaghetti westerns, all featuring the man with no name. Now, what would it mean to have no name? What does a name do? What does a name mean? How does your name define you? Now, as we have seen, biblical names were not just names. They had meanings. In this parsha, we will learn God's name. And more important, we learn that the four-letter name of God, the Yud He Vav He, has a specific meaning. Genesis was the book that introduced God's creative majesty. And the hint that humans had a bad heart, but that he'd live with it. It then moved into the patriarch tales, which was really about the damage parents do to their children and how it perpetuates until someone is strong enough to alter the programming. Now, this is not a condemnation of how anyone parents. It's a call to action. Look at your own parental programming, the parts you've misconstrued or have not served you well. You can change. Man has that perpetual question of nature versus nurture. You can change whatever you see needs changing. Look at how you are. Look at how your children are. Sometimes we see in others what we did not see in ourselves. We can change the world, rearrange the world. It's dying if you believe in justice. It's dying if you believe in freedom. It's dying to get better. Now, Genesis ended with 2 elaborate mummifications and burials. And Exodus begins with a one-sentence recap and catapults us 400 years into the future. Exodus 1:6. And Joseph and all of his brothers died, and all of that generation died. It is the moment when Bnei Israel, the sons or children of Israel, have swelled to a people, the Israelites, which is the meaning of that Hebrew phrase from now on in the narrative of the Torah. Now continue to notice the bookends, my friends. Humanity was saved by a man in a box, a Tavat, Noah. And now in many ways, but at an even higher level, man will be saved again. This time by a baby in a box, the only other use of the Tavat in the Torah. This baby will bring law. How to get along. Ethical law, moral law, spiritual law. He will bring nationhood, a system of spiritual observance, a political system. Most importantly, he will introduce God, who was only known by the very few before, to the world. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Now we're about to see that a new wide-angle lens is in place through which the characters and the events are seen. God in Exodus has become essentially unseeable, overpowering, and awesomely fiery. Now we are told in Exodus 1:8, and a new king rose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. Vayakam melech chadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. Now did you notice the designation? Melech, king. Not even the term Pharaoh, let alone his name. Friends, there were 5 pharaohs in the Bible. The Pharaoh who thought Sarah was Abraham's sister, the Pharaoh who knew Joseph, the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, the Pharaoh who sought to kill Moses, who may or may not be the same Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, and the Pharaoh of the Exodus. None are named. Pharaoh has no name. Now we will learn through the Passover ritual, we create and name the evils and enemies of our lives. What's your name? Who's your daddy? Now we are immediately told things have changed. We learn about the work terms assigned to build cities. Now the Hebrew term machine refers not to individually owned household slaves, but to a policy of forced labor imposed on an entire community, a corvée. Now a type of forced public labor seen throughout ancient times, but it was the term. Because centuries later, King Solomon imposes a machine on Israel, requiring, in addition to monetary taxes, a period of labor on national projects. And this so infuriates the Israelites that they stone to death the king's minister of machine in 1 Kings 5:27-28. Israelites will bear taxation, but the requirement of forced labor implies control over people's bodies by the government. And this is appalling to a people whose recollection of having been slaves is a central doctrine to their understanding of themselves and their history, and the fact that their teaching, their Torah, is all about freedom. The story of freedom is told through one man's eyes, the great prophet Moses. He is a profoundly lone figure. Although he has a family, Exodus is not about family relations. It does not develop them in Moses' case at all. In fact, let's look at his name. Moses is an Egyptian word meaning true son, or the one who was born. Now, we like to believe it means drawn from the water, but that's actually a biblical stretch. We meet him as a baby cast on the river in the Tava, saved by a princess, returned to his family for weaning, which would certainly take a lengthy period of time, probably several years, most likely until he was around 3 years old, and then returned to the princess. And certainly a 3-year-old would have had Hebrew as his first language and a name. And yet all the time, he has no name. Now, how long does someone take before they are named? Most people name their baby before it's born. How many times a day do you hear people say your name? How often do you speak to others and not use their name? And the princess calls him Moses, true son. Now, history is full of royal Egyptians with the additional name of Moses, true son, such as Tutmoses, so that there would be no discussion of legitimacy. Exodus 2:10. And the boy grew older, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him from the water. We like to say it is from the verb, to draw out of the water. Now, Freud did a fascinating study of this, and he concluded that Moses was an Egyptian, and that the birth story was composed to explain how an Egyptian had come to be the leader of the Israelites. Now, this has never either been proved or disproved. But keep an open mind, my friends. Everything about him is enigmatic. Miriam is never referred to as his sister, only as Aaron's sister. And there's actually never direct discourse between them in the Torah. There is no information about his early life. We simply know he was nursed by his own mother. There is even ambiguity in his killing of an Egyptian taskmaster whom he sees striking a slave. Is it because of his bond with the Israelites, or is it his sense of justice? Now, when asked by God to speak to the people, he says he is not a man of words. Because I'm heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. Now, this has always been taken to refer to a speech defect. And it is a term which is frequently translated as slow of speech. And there's a very famous midrash which goes so far as to recount the origin of Moses' speech impediment in a story that pictures him burning his tongue in his infancy in the Egyptian palace. And so Aaron therefore has to speak for him. I love that story. It beautifully explains why someone who could not talk the language needed someone who did to be his spokesman. However, it actually is an expression used only one other time in the Tanakh, in Ezekiel 3. And heavy of tongue, in that instance, simply refers to nations who speak foreign languages. And it's used in reference to God telling him to gather the elders of Israel. And Moses' protest may perhaps be understood then as being on the grounds that he does not yet speak Hebrew. He speaks to Pharaoh with no problem at all. Now we are told that because of his killing the Egyptian, he fled. And Pharaoh heard this thing and sought to kill Moses. And Moses fled from Pharaoh's presence and lived in the land of Midian. Well, in Midian he performs the betrothal ritual at the well of Ruel, whose name changes to Jethro, will have a significant impact on Moses' life. Boy, there's that book of names again. Okay, so the Pharaoh dies and a new one comes to the throne. And God remembered his promise to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. And so while tending the sheep, Exodus 3:2, and an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a fire's flame from inside a bush. And he looked, and here the bush was burning in the fire, and the bush was not consumed. This was not ordinary fire, my friends. Creator God, who creates light ex nihilo, from nothing, can cause burning without consumption. Do you need any more proof that this is someone who is not in the natural realm of existence? And a life-defining moment takes place. Now, this one perhaps changed the course of history in a way the Abraham and Jacob ones did not. Exodus 3:4. And the Lord saw that he turned to see, and God called to him from inside the bush, and he said, Moses, Moses. And he said, I am here. The double name calling we saw that defines moments in time and alters the course of life. Now, we're actually never told why Moses is chosen. As we observed in Genesis, the Torah rarely does state the reasons that particular persons are chosen. We only know that once Moses is chosen and commissioned, virtually the entire narrative is developed through him. But more importantly, God introduces himself. I'm your father's God, Abraham's God, Isaac's God, and Jacob's God. Notice, not the God of creation, not Israel's God, but your father's God. And we're not sure if Moses even knew who his father was. I've seen the degradation of my people who are in Egypt. I've heard their wail on account of their taskmasters because I know their pains. And I've come down to rescue them from Egypt's hand and bring them up from that land to a good and widespread land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Now he had said to Jacob he would lead them to Egypt and would bring them back. And it is time. And he tells Moses his name. And the name Yahweh, which is revealed to Moses in this first meeting, means he causes to be. It's a third person masculine singular causative form of the verb to be. Now this is the name God tells Moses to say to others, but it is not the name that God first uses. Exodus 3:9. I've seen the oppression that Egypt is causing them, and now I'll go and send you to Pharaoh and bring up my people, the children of Israel, from Egypt. Moses asked the natural question, why me? God's answers nothing. And he said, because I'll be with you, and this is the sign for you that I have sent you. Well, there may be some lines missing, friends. I'll be with you is not the answer to why me. And we do not know what the sign is that God's referring to. But Moses then asked the big question. He said to God, here, I'm coming to the children of Israel, and I'll say to them, your father's God sent me to you. And they'll say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? Exodus 3:14. Ayah, Asher, Ayah, I will be who I will be. And he said, thus shall you say to the Israelites, Ayah has sent me to you. Now we translate this often as I am who I am. Although in biblical Hebrew it really means I shall be who I shall be. It's also perfectly possible to construe this as I am he who endures. I kind of like that one. Now, the four-letter name that we do not say, the Yud-He Vav-He, the closest English pronunciation familiar to all would be Jehovah, basically meant he who brings things into being. And that's a pretty good description of what this entity did. And this fits the picture of a deity who is not in the natural realm of existence, but rather transcends it. And so to us, it is a statement, not a name. And that is God simply saying, I am. But when Moses tells his name to people, it has to be changed from the first person, because that's how God introduced himself, to the third person. And so I am becomes he who causes to be. Hey, what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. I love this book of names. And we are treated to this fantastic foreshadow of what is to come. Exodus 4:21. And the Lord said to Moses, when you're going to go back to Egypt, see all the wonders that I've set in your hand, and you shall do them in front of Pharaoh. And I will strengthen his heart, and he won't let the people go. God will manipulate the events to come, my friends, for his own purpose, which you will learn, so that even Pharaoh will not be able to stop it. Remember, my friends, the name of Egypt is Mitzrayim, a word meaning confinement, restriction, the thing that fear does to us. This, of all the books of the Bible, could be summed up in one beautiful sentence. So this is the story of the true Son, who introduces the force that causes everything to be to all humanity, so that everyone who struggles with God can be free of the degradation of nameless fears that keep them constrained or imprisoned. We don't need to know Pharaoh's name. We create new ones all the time. On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rings. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name, because there ain't no one for to give you no pain. Friends, this New Year's, make just one resolution. To let go of the past, connect with yourself, to wake up and be present. The world is sacred, my friends, and so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, light a candle, make a wish, celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free, and honor your freedom. Be well, be happy, and be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace, for freedom, for everyone, and end to terror and hatred. Remember, we are a community, my friends. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other. We share this ride together, men and women equally. Let us send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, good healing to all who need it. And please do learn to forgive and learn to love. Follow the call of freedom. The journey is yours to enjoy. You know my name. That's right. Look up the number. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week. A week of love and healing and thanks and peace. The light is increasing in your life. So keep the lights of miracles burning. Keep dreaming. Enjoy the new energy of the new year. And thank you all for joining me. Shabbat Shalom.